John Wesley shook the dust of Savannah from his shoes and returned to London in 1738. His fascination with the Moravians he met there continued, and from what he learned from them, he worried if he was only an almost Christian.
He did come back to London, and there he and his brother Charles had heartwarming experiences 3 days apart in May on Aldersgate Street. An amazing convergence of their lives and of their awakening to Christ. The place, the exact spot, now has the Museum of London built on it. But there is, outside the Museum of London on a patio overlooking a very busy urban area in London, a huge cross in flame with the words from John Wesley's journal, how he went in and heard reading from Luther's treatise to the Romans. He heard about salvation by faith, not works, and he felt his heart strangely warmed and trusted in Christ.
I talked with Reverend Jennifer Potter of Wesley Chapel in London about John Wesley and his small group meetings.
So they set up a meeting, a society, as early Methodist groups were called, in the Foundry, not far from here, the original Cannon Foundry that they took over and refurbished. And that was intended to be an additional spiritual resource for people. People would go to the parish church and then they would come on to the Methodist meetings later. That is why, up to this day, Methodist church services start at a different time from Anglican church services. Over time, as he travelled around the country, other preachers joined him. Methodists became a much bigger group of people, many of whom had never really had a link with the Anglican Church. So increasingly, Methodism took on an identity of its own. But it was always intended by the Wesleys at the outset to be a renewal movement within the Anglican Church in Britain in the 18th century.
In his third rise of Methodism, Wesley used these small group meetings to engage and support people in their faith.
How that worked?
Well, a society was a group of people who, it had a membership, that people were known. In the Anglican Church, because an Anglican Church serves a parish, everyone who lives in that parish is nominally, at any rate, a member of the church. So they, by and large, don't need to keep lists. Whereas Methodists kept lists of everything. And so a society was a group of people who were known. Gradually they were divided up into bands and classes, which were mutual support groups for spiritual growth. And then when societies grew, they were grouped into circuits, and eventually the circuits were grouped into districts. And throughout the length and breadth of Britain, all these Methodist worshipping communities were part of one connection, spelt with an X in 18th century style. So we still, when ministers are ordained into the Methodist Church in Britain, they are still ordained into full connection.